this way in a more civilized way. It's nice to see all of you from this point of view, to really see if people are already asleep or still enthusiastic. So in that sense, but in the meantime I will read what I have written up. But you would, sorry, I should have given you this microphone if you like. I want to congratulate Mr. Cook, and I'm proud that you did manage it today and translate it.
Thank you, Marius. I wanted simply to introduce you to our public guest. Hölgyeim és uraim, nagy örömünknek, mint ahogy én ezt mondtam ma, hogy Marius, Romme és Sandra Escher közölhetjük a körünkben. Akik itt vannak, ők már tudják, hogy milyen nagy jelentőségű munkásság áll mögöttünk. 1987-ben kezdték el ennek a módszernek a kidolgozását. Sandra akkor újságíró volt, és ő szervezte meg az első hanghallók találkozását Hollandiában egy tévéműsor keretében, amikor 700 hanghalló jelentkezett, és akkor ebből kiindulva szervezték meg az első hanghallóknak az első konferenciáját. Tehát úttörő jelentőségű a munkájuk. Szandrának a különleges fogékonysága a ifjúság felé abban nyilvánult meg, hogy ő fiatalokkal kezdett dolgozni, hanghalló fiatalokkal. Gyönyörű könyvet írt erről, amely hát majd szintén reméljük, szintén le lehet fordítani, és bebizonyította, hogy a hanghallás az nem vezet feltétlenül ahhoz a bizonyos diagnózishoz. A fiatalokkal végzett munkával sikerül ezt a kezdődő folyamatot, hogy úgy mondjam, helyes irányba terelni. Az 50 felépülés történetben is több ilyen történet van, úgyhogy javaslom, hogy olvassák ezt szeretettel. Professzor Romme pedig, ugye, ő 40 évig dolgozott, hogy úgy mondjuk hagyományos pszichiáterként, és az egyik páciense, Péter kérésére, ösztönzésére kezdett foglalkozni azzal, hogy mit mondanak a hangok, és így dolgozták ki ezt a módszert. Úgyhogy azt még hadd mondjam el, hogy a világon az Intervoice nemzetközi szervezet fogja össze a országos, a nemzeti hanghalló hálózatokat, és ennek a szervezetnek hosszú ideig Marius volt az elnök. Úgyhogy ilyen módon is rengeteget tett azért, hogy ezt a módszert, ezt a szemléletet elfogadhassa. Majd az előadásában ezt fogjuk hallani. Thank you, Marius. You have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Zjolt. It's a soft, nice name, like a soft, nice man. So Zjolt would train that kind of pronunciation, I don't know. I first have to get used to you. And my wife always says that I should not talk too much at the start, because then I take too much time, and she's quite right. Because I will read it, because it has to be translated at the same time. And I'm very happy that you with Zjolt and your son, I think, both translated and corrected it. And I'm happy also to have been invited by Dr. Judit Harangozó. It's not a name that a lot the way of telling. And as with the team of the Awakening Foundation. And I've been very happy to work some days with them before this Monday. So I was in, we came a week earlier because you live also in a very beautiful town. So we thought we'd make profit of this coming down to Budapest. We have been here 20 years ago, in 1990, when we were just freed from the domination of another country, and then it was very spectacular how you get used to not being regulated. That was very special experience. Then 20 years we've never been here, and now we saw again this very beautiful city. Now I have to stop talking. I have to go to my left. Isn't it something? Yeah. Good. The theme of this conference will be self-worth, self-understanding, self-help and self-fulfillment. These elements are quite important in recovery from difficult experiences, including hearing voices, as a reaction often on difficult situations and emotions. The relationship with emotions is very important. Therefore, I would like to talk to you about the idea that it's better to treat hearing voices than to treat schizophrenia. Schizophrenia, contrary to many other syndromes, is a hypothetical concept. There is no empirical support. The diagnosis of schizophrenia, according to the DSM-5, is based on frequent coexistence of typical symptoms, such as delusions, hallucinations, incoherent speech, withdrawal from daily activities and the outside world, and decreased initiative. But these are not objectively observable phenomena, as may be presented, for instance, in case of diabetes, thirst, frequent urination, weight loss, and a positive glucose test in the blood. The question is whether an empirical foundation for the concept of schizophrenia may be discovered in the future. Much research has been done, but the empirical basis for validating the concept of schizophrenia so far proves quite cheeky. So that brings along problems for diagnosis. In medicine, the so-called hypothetical deductive model is in common use. This means that right in the beginning of the consultation, doctors start drawing hypotheses about what may be the matter, based on their knowledge and experience. Things like age, gender, and the nature of the complaint may easily point to a possible cause. These early ideas often form the starting point for more specific questions, physical examinations, and laboratory tests. Obtained results are decisive for subsequent treatment. That is, under the condition that the underlying notion of illness are supported empirically. So that has to be together, making decision about diagnosis and having objective measurements possibility. For the diagnosis of schizophrenia, according to DSM criteria, a different route is followed. Based on the selection of all present symptoms, a construct is drawn that is subsequently granted the status of diagnosis, but actually is no more than a form of categorizing. So in reality, it's a may-do diagnosis for lack of a stronger proof, leading similarly to a may-do treatment. This entails an ethical problem. concept that has been used for so long without the necessary validation can at a certain point lead to negative effects, blocking progress. Schizophrenia has become a concept with a discriminatory negative connotation. People getting this diagnosis are often given very negative information about their future. That is not only unnecessary, but also incorrect. Meaning, it's advisable to return to the specific phenomenon the patient complained about, like the symptoms, without making a meaningless construct of them, in the form of a non-valid diagnosis. This means dealing with voice hearing, called in psychiatry auditive hallucinations, and paranoia or delusions, and withdrawal that leads to isolation. That's where it's founded on in psychiatry. To give attention to these symptoms has always been avoided within psychiatry, fearing confusion on the side of the patient. This way, no knowledge was gained about the possibilities to react systematically to the voices. This partly provides for, in a phase of great fear overwhelming the patient, neuroleptics help to reduce emotion, as do tranquilizers in case of peritonitis. A period of overwhelming emotion may rightly be called a psychosis, but in this way, hearing voices was given the label psychotic symptom, a step too far, realizing no professional knowledge about voice hearing had been accumulated. This, in essence, is the problem. The illness concept of schizophrenia makes it impossible to solve the problem and prevents to get insight into the background of this illness. I will repeat that sentence because it's quite important to really understand. The essence of the problem is that the illness concept of schizophrenia makes it impossible to solve the problem and prevent to get insight into the background of this illness. Looking for the background of the illness prevents from looking at the background of the symptoms connected with this illness. This exactly was what we did in our research, studying the experience of hearing voices. It has long been thought that the symptoms like hearing voices were coming forward from the illness, forgetting the reverse possibility that the illness might come forward from or was a result from the symptoms like hearing voices. Our studies showed that hearing voices was not a symptom of an illness, but could lead to illness. Because when hearing voices was based on a serious childhood traumatic experience or psychological conference, it led to emotions a person could not cope with. And another argument was that there are more people in our society hearing voices without never becoming a psychiatric patient. So hearing voices in itself is a human variation. It's not a symptom of an illness, but you can become ill from it. These emotions, as well as the traumatic experiences, they were connected with or were hidden in the brain of the person and came out as voices, being memories in which the persons involved played a role. The interaction of the experience seen as symptoms in psychiatry, I like now to discuss. The symptoms, like hearing voices, delusion, and social retreat behavior, interact together. The way they interact can be explained by the voice hearer when one is prepared to listen to what the voice hearers tell. Between hearing voices and delusion, the interaction concerns regularly the explanation by the voices. That not only we found, but is also published before, but not read very much, by Maher in 1988. Because the hearing of voices is a strange experience for the voice hearer. It is new for him when he will or her. He or she will try to explain his experience as a normal human being who tries to explain what we experience. So when the voices are experienced as always right, they may impress as gods. Or when the voices resemble someone, the voice will be interpreted as this person. That in itself is not strange. It's a normal reaction to what you experience. And therefore, it is for the voice here an attempt to explain the experience. But for a psychiatrist, God does not exist, and the person heard is not there. So that's why they say they don't hear voices. That's not possible. The explanation a voice hearer gives to his voices resembles the way the voice is experienced by the voice hearer. But then one has to listen to the reason for this explanation by the voice hearer. But in psychiatry, one only differentiates between right and wrong, real or not real, and so easily call a reasonable explanation a delusion, because the explanation is not well understood. The interaction together of voices and social retreat behavior is a little different. Here we see that the voice hearer tells us that he is disturbed by what the voices say when he or she is in company with other people. They are thinking or experiencing when in a group of people, the voices can be very hindering in that degree that the person avoids such contacts and therefore does not like to be in the company of other people. Also here one has to listen to the explanation of the voice here to understand why he avoids other people. The behavior is only judged, so it's called social retreat behavior. In themselves, that is right, but not understood and therefore interpreted as a symptom. This interaction is one of the reasons why we think that symptoms are not coming from an illness, but can lead to dysfunction called illness. Because of the hinder the voice hearer is experienced, as well as from the emotions provoked by them. There is a second reason why we should treat voices and not schizophrenia. That is, voices have a cause in the life experience of the voice hearer. What we did observe in our research is that the voices have characteristics which show what kind of problems are suffered by the voice hearer. And that's in case of the patient voice hearer, not with the other. So the voices have a background in the life of the voice hearer, a background that the voice hearer has not been able to cope with and is still emotionally disturbed. I repeat it also because I think it's quite essential that the voices have characteristics which show what kind of problems are suffered by the voice. And that's about the age of the voices, what they say, their male, their gender, all very detailed information about the voices here, because most voice hearers do not only hear one voice, but hear more voices, and they all have different characteristics, and they also often refer to a different problem. So you have really to be listening to their experience in kind of systematic way. So what we did observe is that the voices have characteristics which show what kind of problems are suffered by the voices. So the voices have a background in the life of the voice hearer. And the background that the voice hearer has not been able to cope with and is still emotionally disturbed. This can best be explained with the story of a voice hearer. And then I take the story with a voice hearer who has been bullied in her life. Karina was a 37-year-old woman at the time of the interview about her recovery, which is in the book, which most of you already bought this morning. I thank you also because of the foundation, because that makes their work easier. Okay, that's a science remark. Karina was 37-year-old and at the time of the interview about her recovery, and she tells she was bullied at her secondary school as well as at the university. The strongest and most negative voices came from the people she used to school with. That is how she experienced the identity, referring to people she had met at school and at university. These voices were full of hate and disgust, so she still was suffering from the weight of what the voices said to her, where the voices were negative. She tells, I was 26 when I first started hearing voices, and at that time I was in the bathroom of a house. I was sharing with 3 other students, and they were talking behind my back, or so I thought. At first I thought that I was hearing things, then I thought people were really out to get me. The voices would say things like, she's a nutter or a loony, or she's disgusting, and she failed her A-levels. They said word things, but I don't like to say them. So there are also things people just keep to themselves, but it doesn't make the voices more positive in her sense. What triggered them most were going into crowded places such as restaurants, pubs, busy streets, or buses. There you have no control about the other people. That's why it's a trigger for voices with people with a bullying history. So every kind of trauma has a different trigger, and there are different things they tell. As we always look at also the childhood history, the most traumatic experience was being bullied at the secondary school. How did the voices relate to her problem? That's what we could ask ourselves. Who did the voices represent? She tells herself, it was like I was carrying past voices with me in the present, as a group of people. What problem did they represent is the second question we want to know. because of what I've been through. They were like a tape recording of what people said to me in the past. And for that kind of things, you have to listen to the experience naturally and to interview them. Because voices might be ashamed about what they hear. And so you have to be, in that sense, clear why you do this. To get to more to the reasons for why you hear. In the case of Karina, the voices made her very insecure, and as a consequence, her self-esteem became low. It was important for her to belong to something, so I shared the Hearing Voices network, editing the newsletter for quite some time. So in that sense, we concluded for our research, Hearing Voices is an experience on itself. It's not empirically related to an illness like schizophrenia. There's no symptom really related to some relation. It's just a combination of symptoms that has given an idea of illness. But there are no measurable relationships. So this has been a long-term misunderstanding in psychiatry, because illnesses are constructed from symptoms without any knowledge of the background of those symptoms. That means for psychosis, they made that conclusion. In depression, they still listen. And that's very good, because they have studied medicine and became psychiatry to listen to patients, not to deny what they experience. The traumatic background, as well as the emotional, conflictual background of the voices, combined with being not listened to their experience, provoke a lack of self-worth, self-understanding, self-help, and self-fulfillment in the person. These can be counteracted by listening to their experiences, by trying, together with the voice here, to understand them. And that's exactly what we have done, listening to their experiences, crossing over a kind of taboo in many psychiatric practices, except here in the organization of the Awakening Foundation, because of the theme is really listening, and that makes a great difference. So thank you so much for listening to my explanation of why it's important to listen, also as parents, trying to overcome your anxieties, trying to understand, because that is what Sandra will talk about is very important. Thank you. So now we have to get contact about the
és ameddig megtaláljuk az előadást, hadd mondjam el, Marius említette az előadásában minden, hogy ők már egy hete itt van a Budapesten, és igen nagy lelkűen ők 3 alkalommal szemináriumot tartott Marius az Ébredések Alapítványában, mégpedig úgy, hogy az alapítvány szakemberei egy felhasználóval közösen válaszoltak az ő általuk kidolgozott Maastrichti kérdőívre. És a kérdőív kérdései alapján pedig a Marius felállította azt a így kontráknak hívják, tehát azt a képet, hogy mi okozta, tehát mi az a probléma, amely a hanghallás hátterében volt. Ő ezzel, hogy úgy mondjam, egy klasszikus példát adott abból, ami az ő munkásságukra jellemző, hogy feldolgozzák ezt a hanghallási módszert. Ez, hogy úgy mondjam, vegytiszta, a hanghalló módszer vegytisztán bemutatása volt ezeken az alkalmokon, amit mi a csoportokban csinálunk, a hanghalló csoportokban és egyéb területen, az ezeknek a variációja erre épül fel. De a lényegét most nem. És akkor most adjam át a szót Szandrának, akit nagy szeretettel beszélt.
Well, Marius told about our research already, and when we started to get in touch with voice hearers, we found that about 10% of the voice hearers started to hear voices in their youth when they were young. So that made us wonder how it was the youngsters and the voices. I got funding and I started a research in which we used 80 children. It was a 3-year follow-up. I interviewed the children 4 times with a year in between, all at their parents' home. I wanted their parents to get present. In the first year that was very important because the parents wanted to know if they could trust me. And the second year, often the children didn't want their parents to be present. We were very lucky. We advertised in the newspapers. The television station show asked me for an interview. The big newspaper, so we got 80 children, which was really hard work. Of those 80 children, we were very lucky. We were nearly as much patients as non-patients, as you can see. If you have questions, please ask them. There were nearly as much boys as girls. As research instrument, we used the Maastricht interview for children. That was our adult interview. We changed it a bit for the children would understand the brief psychiatric rating scale, which measures psychopathology, the youth self-report, and also measures social functioning. In Holland and schools they use it. And a dissociative experience scale, how to measure dissociation, because often you see when there is severe trauma, there is also dissociation in which the people try to cope with it. Well, the interview subjects were aspects of the experience itself. So was it heard through the ears, in the head, or in the body? Characteristics of the voices were male, female, children, or non. And then the personal history of the voice hearing, when the voice hearing started. And this is very important because the voices often mostly started after a traumatic event or a difficult condition. So you must be sure that you have the right information. what triggers the voices. People are not aware of it, but if you know what the triggers, you can take your precautions. Like, for example, I know from a child when she started to travel, she started to hear voices. And then she was advised by someone from the Zelda group to take a doll with her. The doll, her own doll, and that helped her, comforted her, and stopped the voices. And what do the voices say? Because that is it negative, is it positive, is it helpful? And we saw that the children who are less afraid of the voices could clearly say what the voices said exactly. People who are more afraid of the voices don't dare to say exactly what the voices say because they are afraid that the voices will punish them. Interpretation of origin of the voices, well, that is very funny. Here's a big difference. We think that the voice here thinks that the voices are related mostly to, for example, God, the devil, all those more explanations that are outside themselves. Voices are heard outside and explanations are outside. And the professionals think that the voices are inside. That you have to start to recognize that voices are, how do you say it? Anyway, that the voice, you should accept that the voices are part of you. And for most voice hearers that is too frightening, so that they can't go along with it. But what I learned is to say to the voice here, now you have to accept that we think different. So I accept your voices as real, but don't ask me to do the same. But we can discuss about this, about why you think that and why is that. We also gave the voice hearers quite some books, the books of the voices are seen as angels. And so they have to read about their own interpretation and then you can have a discussion. Marius, for example, had a big discussion with Patsy about it, because Patsy read the book of Julie and James about the Greek criminal mind, and they had a whole discussion about it. And that is how they learn to respect each other. What influence do the voices have in your life? What you saw is that sometimes the voices only have influence in school, sometimes only at home, and sometimes only in the streets. Or they might have it on all three areas. And influence could be quite hindering, but people learn to cope with that. For example, there was a girl who always, when they went to a warm meal, her voices told her that she needed to pray. And then she started to pray so long that all the food was full. So at a certain moment, the parents decided, well, I love you, but you can talk to your voices in the corridor. I want to hold me. And that's a very healthy attitude to set limits to the voices. And some people think that, some parents also, that they have to go along with what the voice says to the child. But we learn there are limits. I know from a father who telephoned me, he said, my daughter is so afraid of the voices that she doesn't dare to sleep in her own bed. And she sleeps in between my wife and me. Well, that was for a short time, it was not a problem. But now it's already 4 years, and she has grown quite strong. And when she turns around, she takes the covers, and I'm sleeping in a cold half bed. And then I said to her, yeah, you should set limits. But of course he was afraid of that. When you start so late to set limits, it's much more difficult. You can better start in the beginning, start to set limits. And talk with the voice in what you accept, what he accepts from other people, and how he applies it to the voices. Relationship with the voices, people say they don't see a relationship. But even if it's negative, you have a relationship. So you better get used to it and see which power you have in that relationship. Explore the relationship instead of closing your eyes for it. Then we have coping strategies, cognitive, behavioral and physiological. Well, the two most striking findings. 60% of the children lost their voices within the research period. 85% of the children began to hear voices in relation to one or more traumatic events. And we had expected a high percentage on children losing their voices, but never 60%. It was amazing. And from the 24 children who still heard voices, there were quite a lot also who heard only positive voices. So we think that interviewing the child in the presence of the parents, and it gave enough power, and within the family they made one again to have their own ideas about the voices and about the traumas, because that is important. Are there factors that influence the voice calls? Yes, on the BPS, a high score on anxiety, a high score on depression, high score frequency of the voices. So it's not the number of voices, but it's the frequency of the voices. You can imagine if you hear voices nearly all day long, it's very hard to sleep. And then there's a high score on dissociation. But all these factors can be used in therapy. You can work with them. Aware of that. Are there differences between patients and non-patients? No significant difference in the cause. Mental health care had no influence on the discontinuation result. And being in care doesn't really mean it went better. It was, but when we looked at quality, it was the therapist that was important. If the therapist accepted the voices, the children could better learn to cope with it, and if the therapist had an illness. Different non-patients were more active in coping, and patients more psychopathic pathology was found, like self-harm and obsessive behavior, compulsive self-behavior. So voices were not the only problem. Children with more trauma were more likely to look for mental health care, but it also depended on the parents, because if your child is very aggressive and makes trouble at school and in the street, at a certain moment you're likely to get help. So it's not always, doesn't mean that you're not patient, but within the family it's thought better to look for help. You can look at the trauma. 22% start to hear voices in confrontation with the death from a family member, from a grandfather, grandmother, a friend of their siblings. They couldn't go. But often the children were then held away from the grieving process. So if the grandmother died, the child was not allowed to be present with the grieving adults. And that made it very frightening. Also, mostly it was in an age where they had to develop their own thinking about death. Problems about the home situation, I will talk about it a bit. Problems about the school situation, other kind of trauma. 19 children, tension within the family, it was mostly within siblings, competition in siblings. Divorce, 6 children with divorce, but often there were male children who were forced to live with their mother and didn't find any role model. So they were confused about the situation. And also children don't like to choose between father and mother. And that's often what happens in divorce, that one of the parents or both parents are trying to get the child on their side. Moving houses, It might also because you have to change, to leave your school, to leave your neighborhood. It isolates you, it frightens. And I know one boy saw a Belgian soldier from the First World War on the attic in the new house. And his mother was so wise to go to a paranormal healer, in this case. And the paranormal healer explained him about the war and what happened. And the vision and voices disappeared. Of course, the question is, when do you go to a paranormal healer? In Holland we have several paranormal healers we trust, but even good seem voice healers were very glad to go to them and said and cure them, so we tell voice healers who ask for a paranormal healer, we give them endorsement. And being from the school situation, mental disabilities, children perform less in the schools. And they often, the voices started at the moment the children realized that they couldn't perform as well as the others. Changing schools, with mental disability was also a child who performed too much, who was highly intelligent. That was also very difficult for him. Changing schools, other known in Holland and probably you when they go from at 12 years old, they change school, they go to secondary school. For some children, that was a reason to start hearing voices. And being bullied for children, but that was underrated, I think, because there were more children being bullied, but it's difficult to talk. I know there was one twin, and they moved to a small village, and one of the twins could go. She had friends, and the other one shut her mouth and didn't say anything. But then the groups in the school started to bully her, and they beat her with their head against the wall so long till she reacted. So the child started to hear voices, but she didn't dare to tell her parents. And her mother had an idea, and then asked me to interview her because of the research, and then we found that this problem. 12 children sexually abused. Now, this is underrated, because if you have a child that you sexually abuse, you don't telephone, you participate in research, you keep your mouth shut. And if we take the literature serious, there's quite a little number. It's getting more and more. Birth trauma, children who had a brain damage during birth. They were aggressive because they couldn't express their emotions. But they could interview, when they conducted the interview, it was accepted by the child. But as soon as they started to ask psychological things, came the anger. Physical illness, there were 2 children who were so ill that they were admitted to the hospital, and one of the children was lying in a room where other children died, and he started to hear voices. Anesthesia, 2, and one of the children who was operated on saw fun stars, 2 metal men in white coats, the doctors, with a syringe, and he let them give the voices in the syringe, and the voices disappeared. Rejection in love, well, we all know how difficult that is. It's easy to get voices, I think. So I wonder why not more men. Abortion, 1. Discontinuation and trauma. Well, we saw from the Greek 15 children lost their voices, so that's a fairly good outcome. Problems at home, 16 children lost their voices, and 3 children with divorce kept their voices. There was more problematic. Problems in school, 15 children lost their voices. Other problems, 3 children lost their voices, were 5 out of this group, and 3 children with sexual abuse, 2 with trauma, and 2 with physical illness kept their voices. So there could be done more research in this area. Yeah, and this is, I think, a problem with silence. There are general data that may be called objective information. But to me, it is never objective with a voice as well, because the voices are personal. We tell about personal problems. So I don't understand why they kept to subjective. I think there should be a discussion and see how to change this. Because you get more information if you subjective information on individual level. Voice is different, a person, no voice. Voices have a message. That's what we found out through our research. Voices have to tell something. You only have to listen to hear what you tell. The voices can be talked to or given a message. If the voice is negative, you can also say to the voice here, please tell your voice that I'm not want to get rid of you, but can you help me to think like that? That helps me cope with the voice. Not using the voice is missing it for something. Because mostly voices in the beginning are very helpful or willing to. Only if you reject them, they become nasty. But the message of voices might be, as Marius told, the characteristics of voices, the content, the triggers, and the influence. Characteristic of voices might be the voice of the abuser. It's very important content. The voice might say, you better be dead. But it doesn't mean that you kill yourself. Often it means that you need a change of life. That you don't, the life is not good for you, but look to a different life. You better make your homework now. That's good information for the voice. Tell your friend he's a fake. That case, if you do that, he told his friend he was a fake. He in a lot of trouble. And you are an outsider. So before you say that, and the child feels also that he's an outsider, so you better talk about it. That feeling. The triggers, the circumstances, places where voices come or do not come. If the voices come always in the bedroom, then there is a problem in the bedroom. If the voices always come when the child goes to school, there's a problem in school. I will give you one example for Max. The triggers of Max seems to be troubled a lot by negative voices as soon as he feels the pressure to do something. Max becomes afraid and is then gruffy and unreasonable. This happens mostly when he has got to go to school, especially when there are different examinations. Does not hear voices when he is on vacation or during an outing. He's a very nice, sportive, spontaneous boy, full of humor, with no health or social problems. Influence of the voices. When there are, for example, examinations, mathematic, his voice is telling him to write down wrong figures, and he feels that he has to obey. Content of the voices. The nature of the voice is extremely destructive when he wakes up. But male voice mostly tells him, you better be dead. During the day, the voices tell all kinds of horrible things. I do not dare to mention, but the overall message is that he's a total failure. And he's not aware of the relation. Well, the situation as it is now, Max doesn't want any help because he thinks he's a nutter, so why he can't help, won't help him. His parents speak Max's voices strictly in the family. Well, that's also not very helpful for Max because he's isolated and singled out, and the family is also singled out. Don't dare to go to events because of Max, and he might, something might happen, the voices might come. They say we will do anything to help Max if necessary change our behavior. Well, I have doubted their possibility that if they could do that. But here is an opening where you can start with therapy. Well, this is the last slide. If you look at things that are conclusions regarding mental health care that influence recoveries, when the voices are not accepted, and you must realize that's very important. Even if you don't believe it, don't say it will, because it's not your problem, it's the child's problem, and the child needs to learn to cope with it and start to think about it. Voices are not used in therapy. Well, the characteristics for Max was his brother. He had an older brother who was very intelligent and he did easy in school. So, and there was never put a relation between the competition between the two brothers. Triggers and talking and the content. What parents told with their parents and children are to talk about something that disrupts their daily life. By doing this, the child was singled out with the family as well. And so psychiatry, in a way, not accepting the voices, closed all the doors. And what you need to do is, you need to get the trust of the child. They also made competitions about it. If I was going to prove in the beginning that I was not trusted. And then you can build up something. But his parents, the parents of Max, also did far too much. When Max wanted to walk, his father took him in the car, went to the woods and hid the car behind a tree, and then he went for a walk. And when I suggested that there were better, simpler ways to walk with the child, he was angry with the father. So there is a lot of things that play a role in therapy. And conclusions regarding mental health care. The influence of voices are only seen as negative. People are surprised if you say they are positive voices. Voices are not talked about or talked to. Medical theories force voices on medical growth. They are not familiar with. It starts with the language, with auditory hallucinations, children, doctors and even for children. I know we have several therapists who develop a language with the child for his experience, and that's very important. So the children can talk with the therapist and with their parents, they can explain themselves. Medical concept force voice hearers to submit what you like. Because if they tell they hear voices, they get more medication. Or if they tell and get more medication, then they feel a bit as if they are in a clean glass. So I think there are real things that we can change in psychiatry without. The only thing is that we must be thinking that we know everything. Have you got any questions? It also.
I think we should have a discussion together. So you might, I would like to kiírt embereket kérném, hogy jöjjenek ki azokról a helyekről, ahol hanghalló csoportok működnek, és kérném, hogy a Mariusnak meg Szandrának adjunk fülhallgatót. Zsolt?
There's one idea about the children, that all children hear voices, but several research show different figures. And it's at least in children's research until you open in literature, it said that after 8 years you can see the difference between reality and fantasy. So there was a big chance that they
something different. There's a real difference between hearing a voice as a friend, which is in the younger age, but also the characteristics are different.
Csak a tolmácsok nem.
Because of the sounds, because of the voices.
Often parents are ashamed of the child that hears voices. They want a perfect child.
Azt szeretném megkérdezni, hogy a 60%-ban megszűnt hangok a gyermekeknél milyen arányban voltak a terápiának köszönhetőek, és mennyire volt ez egy spontán gyógyulási folyamat?
In the research, it didn't make any difference if there was therapy or if there wasn't therapy. But what made the difference was the therapist themselves. So if they had a good therapist, it was easy for them to learn to cope with it. But it's funny because we thought there would be a difference, but sorry, there's no difference.
Ilyen a pszichiátria. Van-e még kérdés?
And if possible, to overcome the trauma, understand.
Jó sokan összegyűltünk, és így a plenáris ülés végén kicsit előkészítjük azt is, hogy délután lesz egy workshop, aminek a keretében, ha jól tudom, megalakul a magyar hanghalló hálózat, mozgalom. És most itt olyanok ülnek, akik már használták, tapasztalták a hanghalló módszer, önsegítő csoportot vezetnek, vagy tagok, vagy szakemberek. Mondhatom, hogy szakemberek, akik tanulnak az önsegítő csoportokról, hogy hogyan lehet másképp gondolkodni, mert szerintem nekünk azért elég nehéz, tehát egy akkora szemléletváltás, ez egy akkora forradalom, ami túlmutat egyébként a hanghalás jelenségén is, hiszen egyébként nem nehéz elképzelni, hogy más mentális zavaroknál is vannak hasonló dolgok, és ebben van a pszichiátria, nem megy mindig mögé az élettörténet dolgoknak, és sokszor nem így állunk ehhez hozzá. Ez egy nagyon komoly változás, amit személy szerint én egy forradalmi dolognak élek át. És én magam részéről még tanulom, ugye meghallgatjuk a többieket, hogy vannak ezzel. Még egy dolgot szerettem volna mondani, hogy az 50 felépülés történetben szereplő emberek, akikről szól ez a könyv, amit már éppen többször bemutattunk, és többen megvettek, közülük 44 gyógyszermentes lett. És én ezt azért szeretném, hogy nem tudom, hogy ezt hogy kell csinálni. Ezt próbálkozunk mindenféle módon, ezért értek csak el, hogy hogyan tudunk elhagyni gyógyszereket, csökkenteni gyógyszereket, és csak kérdőjel van, azt hiszem ezzel kapcsolatban, hogy azért néha ennek vannak kockázatai. Én csak azt szeretném mondani, hogy ez nagyon fontos, hogy ha erre gondolunk, akkor ne egyszerre hajtsuk ki a kukában. Az biztos, hogy valamit fogok hozni, hanem keressünk olyan szakembereket, akiről erről is lehet beszélgetni, eszmét cserélni, és hát valószínű, hogy egy fokozatos és lassú folyamat párhuzamosan a mondjuk hanghalló munkával tud esetleg ide elvezetni. Ezt azért akartam mondani, mert ugye az ember hazamegy és rögtön kidobja otthon lévő tablettáit, aminek azért mindenképp komoly veszélye van. Én akkor örülnék, ha röviden bemutatkoznám. Jó?
What I saw when parents contacted me, that they had no idea how psychiatry worked. They thought that all psychiatry was clinical psychiatry, and I had to explain to them, if they went to a clinical psychiatrist, they probably got medication for themselves, and did they want that? So you make more discussion before, so they know what they can expect, and also discuss if it's helpful and be careful with it.
Az idő az megy, úgyhogy arra kérném a magyar résztvevőket, hogy egy rövid bemutatkozás után majd szóljunk hozzá az itt elhangzottakhoz, és megvegyünk föl rövid kérdéseket, és aztán majd a workshopon még
Üdvözlök mindenkit! Gallai Istvánnak hívnak, Ébredések Alapítvány vagyok, és dolgozok, mint tapasztalati szakértő, 2012 2013-ban a Hanghalló csoportokat országszerte. Örömmel ennyit tudok elmondani.
Én is üdvözlök mindenkit, én a Székesfehérváron az Egészségügyi Alapítványnál kb. 3-4 éve hallottam erről a csoportról, a Mérey Zsolt és a István jött rá, maga Dani, és azóta ismerem ezt.
Lőrintz Zsuzsa vagyok, a Székesfehérvári Egyensúlyként Alapítványnak a vezetője. Az alapítványnál 2013 óta tartunk hanghalló csoportokat. Nagyon örültünk, amikor ezt a lehetőséget megkaptuk, hiszen a közösségi ellátásban nagyon jól illeszkedik ez a módszer, hiszen az alapelvei, az önsegítés, a stigma megelőzése, azok nagyon hasonlóak magában, hiszen önsegítő csoportról van szó, a csoportvezetők, felhasználók, illetve hozzátartozók általában, és most is képezünk ki tapasztalati szakértőket, akik felépült felhasználók. Tudom, majd még később folytatom.
Köszönöm szépen, köszönöm mindenkit. Én Szathmári vagyok, pszichiáter, Debrecenről, az kórházból, 27 éve működő terápiás közösségről van szó, és már forradalom volt számunkra is a Hanghalló csoport, amit 2015-ben tudtunk együtt közösen csinálni, és folytattuk egy traumafeldolgozó csoporttal, és azt mondhatom mindannyiunk nevében, hogy ez egy történelmi pillanat, hogy megismerkedhetünk Romme és feleségével, hogy élőben is hallgattuk és láthattuk ezeket a nagyon fontos elveket, az én 36 éven során és egy óriási szemléletváltást jelentett. Annak ellenére, hogy a napai kórházon kezdettől fogva egy terápiás közösség elvei szerint működött, és még ezek után is egy teljesen új dimenziót adott meg számunkra ez a módszer. Köszönöm.
Én Mérey Dániel vagyok, én meg a budapesti hanghalló csoportnak vagyok az egyik vezetője, tapasztalati szakértő, és örülök, hogy ebben a szakmában segíthetek sokaknak, akik előre szeretnék. Mert nekem sikerült, és akkor így mintát is nyújtunk másoknak, hogy ebbe tovább lépjünk, és ez a hanghalló módszer rendkívül szétágazó, és hát Székesfehérváron is tartottunk már több fél éves csoportot, úgyhogy a Zsanettel is jó kapcsolatunk van, Istvánnal és édesapámmal, Mérey Zsolttal csináljuk a budapesti csoportot, terjesztettük is a hanghalló módszert az országban. Ott is.
Before I forget, I want to thank both translators. Fantastic job you did.
Én is szeretném. Valami kívánt közbe a fejemből. Van egy közben kérdés, hozzászólás az előadásokhoz. A közönségnek is, ha lett még valami ötlete.
Nagyon megragadott ez a példa, a Józsit is nem véletlenül ugye inspirálta, hogy lehet az, hogy egy családon belül az apa ugye a gyerekét elrejti, szégyeli, mert ilyen állapotban kerül. A hozzátartozói csoport működik az Ébredések Alapítványban, és éppen ez a célja, hogy segítsen a hozzátartozóknak ebben a szemléletváltásban. A Sandra elmesélt egy történetet, amikor volt alkalom egy kicsit beszélgetni, azt mondta, hogy az egyik legnagyobb élménye az volt, hogy egy édesanyja a terápia elején, vagy mielőtt ugye azt mondta, hogy ez nem az ő gyereke, ő nem tartozik hozzá, és amikor sikeres volt ez a közreműködés, akkor azt mondta, hogy már megint az én gyerek. Igen, hogy már ismét az én gyerekem lett. Ugye én azt hiszem, ennél szebb és nagyobb siker nem lehet. És köszönjük még egyszer.
Én is nagyon köszönöm, és még Zsuzsán.
I wrote Marius and I wrote children's book, you know, maybe if someone is interested, ask you to.
Újabb fordítókat várunk, újabb kiadásokhoz. Azt hogy a regressziós terápiás,
hogy visszamennek a dolgok, miért hozta a traumát, és akkor miért nem honnan jön a megoldás. Amire hozzáadom van vele, és mire vezetni. Hogy ez egy módszer, tehát ez létező módszer, igen, nevezett, hogy egy csomó időt megvetetünk spórolni, a gyerekek is a felnőtt, gyerekek a megoldás.
Sorry, without the microphone, they come up here.
yes, azt kérdezi, hogy a regressziós terápiás technikákat, I am repeating, a regressziós terápiás technikákat alkalmazzák-e, amikor visszamegyünk a traumához és azt feldolgozzuk.
Might well understand the question, but I think going back to the trauma is one. Oh, he's talking also Hungarian. Sorry. Now, organizing it. It's sure the method of what we do is to try and find out what is the background in the person's life to hear voices. So when the background is a certain traumatic events like sexual abuse or the explanation of bullying, then you go into the therapy, into that kind of emotional problems that you discuss with the person. The acceptance, because the trouble often is with sexual abuse, that they feel guilty and feel ashamed for it. So that are the subjects you discuss, to try and to discuss, is it possible to change your ideas, because you are now already quite a grown-up person, but they still experience this person as in their memory, and that is hindering. And so it's rather difficult for a person to get enough distance and there are a lot of them who don't want any sexual relationship anymore. You have another idea because, perhaps, I think there are more people here also who have this experience, therefore it is even better when they would answer the question, because we are more oriented on where do the causes are related to than that we do the therapy of the trauma. We have been working to get the ID around the world, and that has been successful because we're all around our networks and groups. But we haven't been developing therapy methods for traumatic problems, and there are quite some therapies developed for traumatic situations for people with that kind of trauma. So we should not mix up that we are not advocating therapy, we are advocating listening to the voices and learn where they come from, and then you can focus the therapy on the problem. That's our mission, you could say. Listen to the experience so that you get to know where the voices are related to.
Kérdezni szeretném, hogy traumafeldolgozás csoportban, közösségben, ezzel kapcsolatban mi a vélemény, mert délután mi tartunk egy műhelyt traumafeldolgozó csoportról, és az a tapasztalatunk, hogy általános traumák, iskolai zaklatások, vagy az akut osztályon elszenvedett traumák feldolgozása egy biztonságos környezetben, egy közösségben működik. Hogy ezzel kapcsolatban.
I must only say that depends enormously on the group. I think it's not as easy to do that in an open group. You have to have quite some experience of trust into each other's helpfulness. And you have to be clear that the people accept each other's trauma, for that they accept and are serious. Then it's possible to discuss these traumas, and then it is helpful because the other one, they have different IDs, and then by changing IDs, that's a form of therapy. But you have to be sure they accept each other with the traumatic experience. So it depends on the group, I think. You can't say a general issue with this.
It also differs per person. One person feels that it's his cup of tea and another one doesn't want to have anything to do with it.
Az elejére szeretnék visszamenni, amikor kezdjük ezt a csoportot, hogy lehet tehát egyáltalán annak a fölismerés, hogy lehet beszélni a hangokról, tehát a saját hangjainkról, ez volt egy nagy felismerés számukra és meg a beteg számára, hiszen azt tanultuk annak idején, hogy a hangokat azt meg kell szüntetni, a betegek is megtanulják, hogy ne beszéljenek a hangjaikról akkor is, hogyha vannak, tehát hogy hogyan lehet közel kerülni a hangokhoz, és a félelmet megszüntetni ezzel kapcsolatban, és azt az érzést, hogy másnak is van ilyen problémája, tehát hogy nem csak nekem, hanem más is hasonló gondokkal küzd. Tehát ez az, ami a csoportban jobban érvényesül, és aztán utána lehet menni mindenkinek egyénileg, aki erre vállalkozik a feldolgozáshoz, mert nem mindenkinek megy.
The main purpose of Hearing Voices group is that they are respected each other, that they can talk about their experience with each other because they can't in the normal situation, and in that sense psychiatry is traumatic experience for a lot of them. So that's one of the things. But I think growing when the group is becoming more adult, they also more get into the content of the problems. That is what she also said.
Még azt szeretném mondani zárásképp, hogy tehát ez a dolog folytatódik egy sok van a délután folyamán, de Marius és Sandra szerintem már arra nem fognak itt maradni. Én nagyon örülök annak, hogy tovább tudjuk folytatni ezt a munkát. Ez a könyvkiadás, az EPSZK pályázat jó voltából történhetett meg, és egy újabb pályázatot is elnyertünk, amiben Mérey Zsolt Hanghalló példatárát is szeretnénk kiadni, ami már a magyar hanghalló csoportokban szerzett tapasztalatokat gyűjti egybe, és hát tulajdonképpen az adott élményeknek a csoporttagok általi hát élettörténeti kommentjét is tartalmazza. Tehát egy kicsit olyan, mint egy ilyen szótár, ahol ha nagy bajba vagyunk, fölcsaphatunk egy adott dolgot, és ebben az új pályázatban örömmel mondom, hogy már a tapasztalati és kísérő szakértők dolgoznak, és mi nem is dolgozunk. Tehát Gallai István úr a projektvezető, és az Ébredések gazdasági vezetője és asszisztense dolgozik az ő keze alatt. Remélem, hogy ez is egy új formája lesz az önsegítésnek. És az applikációt is folytatjuk, Hanghalló módszernek mondom valamiféle bevezetését, vagy hogy mondjam, kezdcsinálóját mindenképp meg tudjuk csinálni applikáción. Ezt az új szemléletet minél többen megismerjék, és hogy hát szerezzünk bátorságot azzal kapcsolatban, hogy szabad beszélgetni a hangokról, és jó kell, és azt hiszem, és nem csak a hangokról, hogy nem kell mindent a pszichiátriai intézmények felevelában elképzelni. Én köszönöm a plenáris ülés résztvevőinek és az előadóknak is az aktivitást, szerintem egész jó volt, és van még két hirdetni való. Orosz Katalin kollégina egy pillanatra átszülítses, a plenárison nem fért be a végén, elnézést kérünk, és egy workshopot fog tartani a születéssel kapcsolatban, és ott egy könyv is előkerül, ami megvásárolható, és van még egy adományként felajánlott kiadvány, a Máltai Szeretett Szolgálat kiadásában, amelyet esetleges adományokat várnak, nincs ára, és itt alkohol betegek családjában felnőtt gyermekek életútját mutatják be, és hát tulajdonképpen sorstársaknak is ajánlják, hogy hogyan befolyásolja ez a személyiségkötés, és hogyan lehet felépülni. Ezt a kiadványt itt az előtérben fogják ajánlani a Máltai Szeretett Szolgálat munkatársai. Nos, hát 4:02 van, 3:02-kor tudjuk kezdeni a workshopokat. És nem baj, úgyhogy ezt mindenki fölkapja, és akkor